Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Indy and Doctor podcast. I'm Indy, he's Doctor, aka Karan, aka Dr. Jazmavi. This week we're joined by a very special guest. It's his first interview of 2021, which he already told us earlier. I'm quite surprised with the amount of content he puts out in general, but he is a close friend of mine. He is the CEO of the Creative Content Agency, a business founded in 2006, which makes videos and podcasts for businesses and celebrities. He is the founder of numerous other brands. Examples include My Friends and Your Friends. He is the creator of VaynerWorld with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he is the podcast host from the Other People's Podcast with Fatman Scoop. He is also a marketer, a DJ, events promoter, and overall a great guy that's had a great part to play in me changing my career and outlook on life. His name is Raj Kotecha. How you doing, Raj?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the nice intro, and hello to you both.
Yeah, Raj, how do you do all of that? Like all of those things at once? I mean, I'm pretty sure it isn't interchangeable, but how did you build up a massive portfolio of skills?
I focused on what I was passionate about. So
yeah,
I didn't feel a need to check out at 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And another thing is that when you're young, you take on a little bit too much. It's a common trait of an entrepreneur. And at 26 years old, which is when I registered the business, we registered the business to do a deal with Russell Peters. And, you know, once that business is live, it's almost like the business's revenue and its potential is like a black hole. And so you're like, well, now that I've got a business, how many deals can I do? And you run a lot of opportunities that come your way through there. So, you know, Social Media Week came from New York to London. They needed a music partner. We were like, okay, cool, let's run it through the business.
Which business was this, Raj? Was this Love Soul, correct?
So Social Media Week was me and the crew. So like Vic from Love Soul was a big part of that. We also had other volunteers as well that were taking part in that. So the way that you do it is that you just work all the time, and you just kind of like, when you've got the time and you've got the capacity as a human being, you just fill up your time with interesting projects, because there's a compound effect. If you just go crazy from, 18 to 38 or 40, after a while, it's almost like when a guy's on a bicycle and you're cycling, and then the bicycle chain snaps.
But that's what you did, Raj.
The bike carries on going forward because you've been hitting the pedals for 22, 23 years. So when COVID came along, that was like the bicycle snap. That was like the bicycle chain snapping. But I had done so many revelations on those wheels that the bicycle just carried on for another year. And, the way that you do it is you do the 9 to 5, you do the 5 to 9, you focus on what you're passionate about, because passion is a counterweight against fatigue. And you just go for it. And plus, as you know, from us knowing each other over some time, like to some people, I'm Raj Kotecha. To other people, I'm DJ Raj Love Soul. And so I always had one foot in music and promotion and events and working with artists and, essentially in the streets, right? And then the other, I was in New York and LA in the boardrooms and doing, working with startups out there. And I was lucky I've been involved in two exits, or like one personal exit and one kind of like big corporate exit. So you just, I'm Raj Kotecha 9 to 5. Raj Love Soul, I was 5 to 9. Now it's Raj Kotecha at night as well. You just stay on it, man.
24/7, man.
Yeah, for sure. Raj, long answer for a short question. I'm going to promise to keep my questions much shorter. I just came back from a meeting, so my head's still spinning. I'm with you though, I'm with you.
That's a great place to start. And I was just going to ask about, because entrepreneurship, there is this whole thing that's personified and glorified about hustling, right? 10x mindset, Grant Cardone kind of thing. And I know when I started, I had this kind of, if I look back now, this kind of shiny penny syndrome, tried to do a lot of different things. Some things really work and I stuck, and I did find my passion. And some things I realized just didn't align with my values. How did you come across your passion? How did that process happen? And what do you think about, now you talked about passion is the cure for fatigue, but what about burnout? Burnout is a real thing. I see it in a lot of people. What's your methodology?
My hope is that anybody who experiences burnout experiences the Coke Zero version of it. So I used to get burnt out and stupidly take pride in it. I'd be in Northwick Park Hospital in Harrow taking pictures.
I remember you telling me this, Raj. Whenever I first met you, you told me how severely burnt out you were, where you were in hospital on like an IV trip. And you were like, I was doing this. And I'm like,
tell me this
that's
story.
Not cool.
From a doctor's point of view, this is interesting. So what happened?
I'd be hustling, then I'd end up with gastroenteritis or stomach cramps or fatigue or chronic headaches or the most common thing right there was dehydration, if you let the doctors tell you. And and I would just be in hospital, and I was in there so often with IV drips that like the nurses would come into the room and say hello, like, hey, you back again, how's it going? Wow. I'd be like, doing my thing, like in terms of like just understanding that this is going to be a 12 to 24 hour process. And then I'll be back out in the streets again. I'll be DJing, I'll be promoting, I'll be back on social media. So, my hope for everybody is that you're probably going to, with all the conversations nowadays around mindfulness and balance, I'm hoping that less and less people experience burnout, but I don't think it's uncommon to at least arrive at the oven door. Like, you don't need to touch the oven like I did 100 times. And my hope is that people hear me talk and go, you know what? If you're struggling sleeping, if you're waking up in the morning thinking about a deal which is half baked, if you've got stress on your mind, this is a signal that you're on that path. And that's probably a good time to do it. The thing is, guys, I'm old as fuck, right? I'm 40 years old. So all of this shit about like mindfulness and being conscious and self-love and taking time for yourself, that shit didn't really exist for 15 years ago.
It didn't.
And it certainly wasn't hitting the radar of your average brown guy, Gujarati guy, that was hustling. These are just not conversations we had. Like one thing about me being my age is I am, I'm 50%, I'm 40 years old. I'm 50% from the analog era, working in my dad's shop, picking up 48 cans of Coke from the car boot and bringing them in
and stacking the shelves.
Grinding. And then the other half is like Sony Ericsson, having 3 Nokias strapped to my wrist, iPhone, Blackberries on top of Blackberries. I'm it's half digital, half analog. And so we got, our generation at the same time got caught out between both sides of the paradigm shift. And if you're alert, was also able to take advantage of both, to bring that 1980s immigrant work ethic that our parents have, God bless them. And then also being like, oh my God, I can send, instead of standing out at 3:30 in the morning in the snow in Manchester, handing out flyers, hoping to not get robbed, I can actually send an email or an SMS and put the same message inside people's phones where they are in their dorm rooms.
Mad. So Raj, tell me, what's your thoughts nowadays on everybody having like their own side hustle? So everyone seems to want to be an entrepreneur. It seems really fashionable. Everybody seems to want to go into this space. How can you tell people that are actually serious about it and those that are simply just chatting shit and not being genuine and just sort of like, oh yeah, I dabble a little bit, I do this, but in their bio it says CEO of a cleaning company. Like, how do you see through a lot of that?
And another bit, just before you answer, Raj, that I'd love to get your take on is this whole world of fake gurus now. Now, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I'm not saying that he's one of them, but people like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, all these people who are selling loads of shit online, Forex, courses, for everything. But really, it's just all upsells and bullshit. And I'd love to get your take on that as well.
Okay, so the first question was, what was the first question?
Entrepreneurship. How come it's so fashionable nowadays?
Right. Okay. So let me go with that one first, then we'll come back to Grant and Ty and those guys. So the whole job industrial complex, the whole employment industrial complex is a very industrial revolution, post-industrial revolution thing. Go to the factory, clock in, clock out, have a job title, have a job description. In the grand scheme of humanity, people have only been inside a job structure for, and I don't know, I'm no anthropologist, but a couple of 100 years. Prior to that, people used to manage their own vegetable patches. And some people would raise animals and others would grow fruits and other ones would lay concrete, right? So the idea of having a quote unquote side hustle or something that you can directly exchange is not actually that different a concept. I compare it to when people say, oh, this apple is organic. Well, a normal apple is supposed to be organic. We shouldn't label this one organic. What we should say is this apple is a pesticide apple and an apple is meant to be organic.
An apple. Yeah.
Right. So I see the same with entrepreneurship. I'm glad that people are now recognizing that if they've got an ability that they can directly sell to a consumer through the internet or otherwise, and then the consumer can directly compensate them, that that now that connective tissue exists through, through Stripe and PayPal and Fiverr and Upwork and all those things. So, I'm very pro it. And I think it's a great thing. And I think that we were only temporarily so obsessed with jobs over the last kind of like 80 to 120 years. But after that, it's been, we're kind of, it's a correction. We're going back to the fact that if you have got a skill, you should directly go to market with it. With regards to Ty and Grant, I've been in rooms with all these guys. I've shook hands with all these dudes. I've been backstage. I've heard all different types of conversations had about what's going to be said on stage before folks go up. And when they come off stage, how they debrief amongst each other. I won't mention any individual names, but it's not just Ty and Grant at these events. It's
absolutely
the D list and the E list and the Z list version of all of them. What do I think about it? Look, at the end of the day, pre-COVID, you could be walking through Times Square and you'd see a guy with 3 cups upside down, and underneath one of the cups is a ping pong ball. And then there'll be the most beautiful girl who comes over and says, "Hey, have you seen this guy?" And you go, "No, what's going on?" Yeah. And they pull you over, right? So it's not different than just being hustled on the street. Now, some of this stuff is undeniable. Like, if guys are jumping out of private planes, at the very least, they've got enough money to rent a private plane. If not, fly it. And I know Grant and I know Ryan and all these guys, and they are actually like living that life. So, that's one thing to be said. For everybody else, it's about being afraid of heights, guys. People get to a certain level in their careers, and then they think to themselves, okay, I'm a 4 out of 10, which means I know better than other people that are a 3 out of 10, a 2 out of 10, a 1 out of 10. Do I want to now take this high road and go from being a 4 to a 5 to a 6 to a 7 to an 8, which gets double harder each time you go up a rung? Or do I want to turn around and just sell to the 2, 3s and 1s?
Holy shit, I never thought of it that way.
And that's what most of these cats are doing. They're talking a big game and then leaving the venue, eating the free food in the buffet, jumping in the back of a Ford Fiesta and going and staying in a 3-star hotel. And they've got their rags to riches story. They've got their Phoenix story. This family member had cancer. I realized I couldn't pay for them. I had this accident. This person left me. I hit my bottom. You can Google a hero's journey and you'll see the same 5 to 8 stage process that they all go through. It is a scam, but humans are going to scam. I mean, there's 7 billion people. If you were to walk around the planet, country to country, continent to continent, town to town, city to city, one of those 7 billion people is going to try and take advantage of you. And
but so, how do you see through that? Because in order to not safeguard people, I'm not on a righteous journey here, but how do you see through that as a person who, say, if I'm coming into this world and I haven't been on stage with these guys or been in the venues with them or seen how they act, how do you see through it? Or what's the telltale signs?
What I like about the fact is that if you are skeptical about it, you should always do an opposite zoom. So whoever you feel, we've got instincts, right? And people that haven't got instincts get eaten. So if you're a wildebeest who can stand next to a lion and you're like, I don't really trust this guy, then you might have a chance of like not being eaten by that lion. But if you're a wildebeest that stands by a lion and goes, hey there, little lion, and then the lion eats you, well, that was kind of your future as a wildebeest. That's kind of your destiny. So the way I would take this into something practical for people, how does one recognize that is, yo, man, like if your instinct feels like something's too good to be true, if every single time someone goes on stage, they're selling you something that ends in a 7. So it's like this program's $497, $797, $997.
Buy now.
Right. So if you've been blessed with the level of intelligence, and it doesn't need to be high, where you can pick up on that as a signal and go, hang on a second, then the next thing I think you should do is just type that person's name or that program into Google and just write the word scam or con after it. And then go down that rabbit hole and see what it tells you. And you might find that there's 2 or 3 people that swear it's a scam and there's 97 people that swear it's not. And then you can just use your free judgment. But look, dude, the reason why these scams have been distilled the same way that the guy in New York is doing the thing with the ping pong balls. Yeah. He's doing the same thing that his uncle was doing and that his granddad was doing. Some of these things are so refined. They're actually meant to circumvent part of the human psychology. and get into somebody's.
So think about it at that level of depth.
So let me come in here,
it's meant to make them want to gamble, and it's meant to trigger the greed in them.
Yeah.
And that's just a skill that people have. I don't know if there's a way that we can mass baptize the public to be like, be careful, you're going to get conned. Again, now and again, you got to touch the oven door to know that it's hot.
Yeah, and I've got to come in here, Raj. So I was at the National Achievers Congress, organized by Success Resources 2019. So Grant and Gary, they were headlining, the Russell Brand. Great. It was a pitch fest. Okay, now I've been in personal development probably 5 to 7 years. I've been down plenty of people's funnels. Some have great value and some are just absolute bullshit. You sit in a room and this is supposed to be like a retreat and it's supposed to give you loads and loads of value, and they're telling you things you can find in Napoleon Hill's book or whatever. But Indy, I don't know if you've been to many of these events, people literally run to the back of rooms with credit cards, with these call to actions and like you said,
Seriously?
NLP, then the 1997, and I used to be that guy.
Tell me about the 7 thing. I don't understand. I don't think a lot of people do.
So, and this is the point I was going to actually, I'll come on to the 7 thing, but the science of how you sell, right? So I've been in masterminds where it's okay, this is how you do stacked offers. This is how you do irresistible offers. This is the price point you need to do. This is the discount that you're going to do. There's so much in how you sell, because they call it basically pre-close, and then you actually close. But most people, they try and sell and close at the same time. You should always be selling, but you close once. There's so much to this where, one of my sales trainers, he has a 7-day program, which is just about what we're talking about. The whole 7 thing you're talking about, Indy, is there's this thing within the industry, personal development industry, that ending in a 7 sells better than, say, ending in a 9, for example. So 199 versus 1997 sells better. That's the science. But the thing is, it's so common now that when people see it, so I think, Panorama did that thing about Samuel Leeds, the property guy. He had this thing about, it's worth watching, man. In all industries, property is one of them and all these things. There are some people doing these things, and it's just because it's an unregulated industry, right? So you're just selling essentially advice. This is where the issue comes in, because there are some people add massive amounts of value, some people, right? And there's other people who are just giving some really high level chunked up stuff that it's just, there's nothing there, but the volume that they're doing on. And I agree, Raj, what you said about the guy in the balls, but it's the scale at which that's happening versus, these guys who are doing it. There's a couple of cool guys on YouTube who basically just call these people out and they expose them and they try and get them and interview them live.
Mike Winnett, right? Mike Winnett from
Mike Winnett, that's it, Entrepreneur Formula. So he was there. He was at NAC actually. He was calling people out.
I'll keep my. There's nobody. There's very few people that are in the game or that are hustling that I don't know or know of or haven't communicated with or haven't been in rooms with. I just don't participate myself, because I was hot in the streets before all this shit happened, and
right.
Indy's brother can tell you that.
Speaking of which, Raj,
I've got so much more to lose if I go out. And I start popping.
He does. Yeah.
Because the streets have had my back for a long time. People would walk out of a bar that they were in and come to mine and pay money to come in on the strength. So we're talking 20 years ago, but that is part of my firmware now. It's just to keep it real with motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
So Raj, to go back to the very beginning, your dissertation you wrote at university, I believe it was a dissertation that you wrote on apps before they were called apps. How did you see this wave of the future coming? And was there a sign that sort of showed you the world was going to be based around the phone that's in our pockets?
Yeah, in 1994 or 5, I went to my aunt's house in northwest London. I think it was in Kenton. And my cousin Vic, who everybody's seen me stood next to for years now, he had I think it was a Motorola Graphite flip phone. And I remember he put it on the table and I remember picking it up and being like, yo, this is crazy. It's big, it's futuristic in its design. It doesn't require any cables. It's got a battery. You can take it in the car with you. We're talking mid early 90s. And I just remember picking it up and it was, it's just again, it's like that Lord of the Rings moment, when Frodo picks up the ring and goes, oh shit, I'm really dealing with something here. And so,
Raj, I love how you reference Lord of the Rings, because Indy hates Lord of the Rings. God, he hasn't watched Lord of the Rings, but we're going to have conversations, so man. Much. I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. So carry on with that, man. You got me now, man. We're boys now. That's it, man.
Yeah. So then, fast forward, I managed to persuade my dad to get one. My dad got one, and then a year later, it became my hand-me-down. It was It was on Orange 15, which was £15 a month. You get 15 minutes worth of calls. It's £1 a minute.
15 minutes of calls.
And you, being Gujarati or being Indian, we tried to make sure that if you're halfway through a call, that you try to get to the 50 or 55 second mark to juice out extra time. And so I would take that with me to sixth form college in 1996, 1997. And I was, getting money back then, like working in UPS. UPS happened to open directly behind my house. So I had like the gold that our grandparents give us. I had gold chains. I had YSL jackets that I bought with the money that I had. Beautiful, like expensive, bright yellow mountain bikes and a phone strapped to my belt. And I would go to college and people would be like, oh, this guy thinks he's so great. Like, why would you? Like, I still remember this guy, his name was Aaron Booth. He was such a fucking tool back then, but I'm sure he's a nice guy now. And he goes, why would you want to carry a phone with you? Like, who do you want to speak to when you're out of the house? Who's going to want to ring you when you're not at home? Wow. And I was like, fuck you, man. Like, you'll see. And then long story short, got a job at Dixon's. Was the only dude who knew how to sell phones. I've not told this story for years, but I was in Dixon's. I think it was in the Arndale Centre or Trafford Centre. And I was just perving on the phones like I normally do. It was around the time that the £180 a year package came out, the prepay package. You get the phone, 12 months contract and like fixed amount of call usage. And this guy called Matt, who was the store manager, came out. And I think he was like, Mohammed. And I was like, now this time I got nothing to lose. So I was like, let's see where this goes. So I was like, yeah. And he goes, come in. So then he takes me into the stock room, sits me down in his office, and he goes, so, tell me about yourself. And I was like, oh, I'm really, into phones and stuff. We get to talking about phones. I knew more about mobile phones than anybody in that store because my dad had a shop. And so I'd read all the mobile phone magazines, which I think was like, I think at the time they were called Which and T3. And I can't remember. We're talking about 25 years ago.
T3 magazine, I still read that.
I don't know. It could have been that. It could have been, it was a blur, right? And and so I used to read every single thing that came out about a phone the same way I'd read everything that came out about hip hop. And he goes, yeah, listen, we'd love to work with you, Mohammed. And I was like, yeah, so funny story. I was like, my name's Raj. And I was literally just looking at the phones. And you were the one that said, what's my name? And I just said, yeah. And now here we are. And he goes, well, all right, the offer still stands. And this is the time, in the 90s, before internet and LinkedIn, like these magical things used to happen. Like, come on, son, I'll give you a job. And so I got a job at Dixon's. I was running the mobile phone section, which was probably like a 4 or 5 meter wide section at the back of the store. People would come there to buy 14-inch TV and VCR combos and not mobile phones. Right. But as demand grew and as my sales ability grew, we sold them. Did a bit of time at BT Cellnet. And by that time, I'd spent so much time with the phone in my hand, especially when I was in the streets as well, like hustling, ringing people, chasing up where my flyers are, chasing up where my posters are, ringing up other people in the crew to find out where they are.
So you did this all at uni? Just to be clear.
This is all 1990s. This is summer 1998.
Yeah.
Right through to... actually, summer 98, I got a job at Vodafone pre-Dixon's. So this is summer 98 right through to me handing in the thesis in summer 2001. The thesis was called M-Commerce, a revolutionary opportunity to get into the minds and pockets of consumers. And we were talking about apps. 3G wasn't even invented yet. They were still doing bidding wars. 4G, mobile banking, games, WAP protocols, GPRS protocols, packaging technology. I was just obsessed
So you just saw it coming, just simply with that basic phone, and you thought, yeah, this is going to be the thing in the future where you have all these availabilities on it.
Yeah, but I also wrote, let's be honest, I wrote a thesis about what I cared about.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I really want to smash this degree. I've spent a lot of my time at university, kind of like, I've either been asleep in uni or off my face or in the streets. So like, if this dissertation is going to make up a big part of my qualification, then I may as well write it on something that I know is going to be a sure shot. And there was skepticism and my lecturers were like, I just don't see like banking happening on your phone. And I'm like, you're stupid. You're the head of technology for this school. If anybody gets it, it should be you. But he was talking about like the power of Ethernet cables for home networking. And I was like, okay, whatever. And off we go. It all worked out. Guys, don't listen. I talk a great game and I've had an incredible like career doing what I do. But like, I've had a lot of good fucking luck, guys. Like, I really appreciate the time and the interview and everything that's happening with you guys, and has happened many times in the past. But I've been a lucky motherfucker, man. Like, a lot of it is that, and I'm just keeping it real with you. I don't want anybody to think that they can
just simply start with this.
And I see it a lot. I see a lot of young kids. I see a lot of like people that see me and then go to meetings and talk like me and mini me's, and I'm like, it's not a formula, guys. You need a lot of fucking luck. You need a lot of motherfucking luck.
When you say luck, which bits are you referring to? Like, was there like big breaks that got you to where you are now? Is there any moment where you can look back and say that was a really lucky fucking moment?
A really lucky moment when somebody, when a guy found out that I worked at Dixon's and called to offer me a job in the fragrance industry, and he ended up he actually was a hustler that I knew of that used to ride Ferraris and Lambos in the 90s, and he made all of that money buying fragrances from Europe and selling them to retailers in the UK. I happened to be there, and somebody answered the phone at the shop and gave me the landline at the shop, and he said, hey Raj, was wondering, we've got a seat that needs to be filled in our office. Can you sell? And I was like, can I sell? I'm the best. I couldn't. I wasn't a very good salesperson. I knew how to sell phones. But I just got that. I got that cocky chip on my shoulder, and I said, "Yeah, I'm the best." He goes, "Oh, you're the best, eh? Come on in." So I came in, got a job. That was a moment when somebody posted a video about Gary Vaynerchuk in 2007, 2008 on Facebook, and the algorithm made me see
back
it.
then. Yeah, I get it.
And I was like, "Okay, yeah, this is real." And then, taking the leap of faith to reach out to him when he said that he answers every email, and he did. I mean, guys, so much luck. Avoiding bad luck as well. Like, shit was hectic. When you're hustling in the 90s and in the early 2000s in Manchester, putting up posters, ducking the council, handing out flyers, ducking other promoters. Everybody's connected in those days. Yeah. Everybody was connected. So if
you don't want to tread on anybody else's territory either.
Right. So like, it's not just the luck that I directly had, like moments of luck. I'm sure there was moments of luck that I wasn't even aware of, like me leaving a spot 5 minutes before something popped off, or, you know what I mean? Like, or actually just not getting hurt in certain situations where stuff's got super crazy, and it just nothing came towards me at that time. I managed to escape.
Wow. How did you create the Love Soul stuff and the promotional side of things at university? So you've done this job at Dixon's, and then what happened? So how did you get that up and running?
It's so funny. I played it safe. I didn't want to get into promoting. I was happy to just sell tickets for all the major crews. So the Pakistani guys, I would sell tickets for them. The black guys, I'd sell tickets for them. The Punjabi guys, I'd sell tickets for them. And it was good because I had tickets from everybody. Everybody knew where to come. A few people would put my names on flyers as the ticket guy in a particular building. And it was all good. But there was this one guy called Mustafa Ahmed who was a DJ. And I went into second year and he came into the first year, and he kind of attached himself to me. And he kept playing me this music. He was just like, we. I was like, oh, what the hell is this? And he goes, and then he gives me another tape, and it's like, you just hear like, we're loving it. I was like, who's this? He goes, oh, this is like, this is Sparks and Kai. This is PSG. This is MC Creed. This is, whoever it is. He goes, this is called garage music. And I was like, nah, fuck this, man. I was like, I don't want to hear this shit. Like, I want to hear like straight, I'm from Manchester. I want to hear like straight hood gangster rap, or I want to hear R&B if the girls are around. But he's like, no, man, this is the sound. Then my partner who I was selling tickets with, that summer he came back and he was like, in those days they used to call it speed garage or London garage.
Right. What's the difference?
So I don't know, man. It was just more like, it was like a little bit more like New York, Chicago vocal house stuff, like speed garage. So then anyway, long story short, this DJ is like on at me all the time. Book me a venue. I want to play. He's making me demos, and I'm like, my car is just full of his demos. And then he's like, I want to play. So I spoke to the right guy, and I made sure that everything would be cool. And then we booked, DJ Luck and MC Neat dropped A Little Bit of Luck.
That's a banger, man. I still play that song these days, man.
Yeah. So we got DJ, we got MC Neat, and we booked him, and we threw a party, and it was all good. I made crazy money. I introduced my then partner to a girl that he was looking at, a Spanish girl, and I knew them both. So I said, yo, you guys should talk. And he went and got her a flower, and now they're married with 2 kids. So
seriously?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
there you go.
No way.
It's beautiful, man. Like, and that's how I ended up doing it. And so the name, the name of the crew was called Love Garage. We were like the Love Garage crew. And then when we stopped doing garage nights, and these guys kind of moved, they were studying to be doctors. These little young boys that were working for me. And so when they ended up like really getting deep into their doctor studies, then I was like, well, I need now that I've learned the game and how it works, and I feel safe, I may as well carry on doing this with the music that I love. And so it's called Love Soul. I love anything soulful, soulful house, soulful soul, R&B, swing, reggae, lovers rock, northern soul, soul and rock, like, you know, like soulful. So we were called the Love Soul Crew. It was me, and I had a singer who's now gone on to be, his name is Merkage Dave on Instagram. Another guy called Shez, whose name was Shez420. And then there was another guy called Taz and TM. We were a crew of about 5 people, and then 3 other dudes that used to like hustle and sell tickets for me. One guy called Raj Kotecha, who I'm still mad cool with. And, you know, it's just that, then it was Love Soul. And then after the Love Soul crew, then I went to Toronto for a year and a half, me and Rish. Started the first independent ringtones portal out there, ended up doing a TV campaign with Sony.
I saw you on TV, yeah. I've seen that clip.
Yeah, and then came back to London. By that point, I'd created my relationship with Russell Peters. I'd started doing.
How did you do that? Was that formed in Toronto?
That was in Toronto, like Cardinal Official, who I saw freestyling on an old Tim Westwood video. I saw him in a club watching Roots Maneuver, so I went up to him. There's 2 like 6'5" Jamaican dudes.
Bodyguards.
I was like, yo, man, like Cardinal Official, like I saw you freestyle, and I remember you said this on the freestyle. And again, because I grew up in a shop listening to music nonstop, music's just, again, it's like firmware level for me.
Sticks with
so
you.
I can remember producers and lyrics and beats and flows and cadence and stuff like that. So he showed me love. We exchanged numbers. I spoke to him about doing the first vocal ringtone in those days, because Crazy Frog was a big thing in those days. And then we were at a party for Starting From Scratch, who's the greatest DJ of all time, and it's not even close. We were at his 15th anniversary party in the VIP section, and me and Cardi are just chopping it up. And I said, you know, one day I'd love to meet Russell Peters. You know, Russell Peters was hustling in Manchester when I was there as a comedian at the Frog and Bucket. And,
really?
You know,
he was getting big then with that.
No, he only got big post, I think, Comedy Now, where he said somebody going to get hurt, and then
Real bad.
So
wasn't
he got big
around the same time, or am I getting confused? Because I remember when I saw the videos of you doing that with him, and that stand up of somebody's going to get hurt was him in like a white t-shirt, and jeans. Sorry, the white shirt and jeans, and that came out about 05, 06, I think. I could be massive.
Yeah, that might have come out 04, 05, but I think I already knew about Russell, because I used to go to some bars, like even the Comedy Store in Manchester used to have Russell's picture above the bar, and he was like the only brown guy. So I used to look at him and be like, my God, like that's incredible. That's in the early 2000s. So you know, Cardi was like, yo, no problem, man. Russell's like my homeboy. So he walks me out of the VIP section through the crowd. You head over to the other side of the bar, and Russell, as usual, has got a drink in his hand, talking to some beautiful girl. And Cardi brings me and Russell back over to the VIP section, and then we get to talking. Russell then says, you need to talk to my brother Clayton, who I think is one of the greatest thinkers of all time, and still a mentor to me. You know, said, well, you know, we tried to do the ringtone deal. I can't even remember the reason why we didn't do it, maybe because I moved back to the UK. But then I reached out to him. I was at Center Parcs, and I heard that Russell might be coming over to do a 1,200 seat show in King's Cross. And I reached out to Clayton, and Clayton said, we can do an after party. And then, it just snowballed from there. We were the Love Soul DJs. Vic joined me as a solo DJ, and we became a DJ duo. And then we were doing a few shows locally in and around Northwest London and Leicester. And then I think the Russell Peters moment is where it really like freaking tipped. When the whole of Manchester moved to London. So the whole of Manchester came out for that show. Like when I say Manchester, I mean Northwest London, because Northwest London is Manchester. And then they all came out for it. And then we did a second Russell Peters after party. And then we did the Mobo Awards. And then people started seeing us around with like, you know, Wu-Tang Clan and I think Farside and a few other people. Like it just snowballed, man. Like that time was a crazy time, guys. Like the blogging era, that 2000 to 2010 was a wild time, yo. A wild time. It's hard to explain what it was like to be hustling in those days. And that was, by the way, that was 5 minutes ago. That was 11 years ago. We're not even talking about that.
Why did you stop that though? Because things were going so well for you. Like, just hearing this now, it sounds like things were going really, really, really well. You were meeting so many new people. You were branching out massively. Love Soul's growing even more and more. Why stop?
David fucking Guetta. David Guetta,
right, okay.
David Guetta, Mark Ronson.
One-line answer.
Mark Ronson, Bob Sinclair, and all of these cats, Calvin Harris.
Yeah.
It was my 30th birthday. We had a party. I threw a party like I did because I was such a flashy motherfucker. Threw a party for 600 people in Abbey Bar in London, free of charge, Brazilian dancers, indoor fireworks. My parents are in the VIP section with me, like, so they finally see for the first time after 12 years of being in the game what I do. And I remember looking at this whole thing and being like, firstly, it might not get better than this. And secondly, DJs are now putting out their own records. So Calvin and David and Bob and all these guys now start putting out their own records. So I said to Vic, I was like, look, I'm going to need to change on my 30th birthday from DJ Raj Love Soul to Raj Kotecha. So I started peppering my real name back into it because I was like, look, the older you get as a DJ, if you're not producing and putting out hit records, you get older and older and older and less relevant.
Wow.
But the older you get as a consultant, the more valuable you become.
Absolutely.
So then I started spending a lot more time talking about the agency, a lot more time talking about strategy. I already had 1 or 2 interviews with Gary Vaynerchuk under my belt, like interviews where there's just only 3 of us in a room, or there's like 5 of us in a room, and then we walk down Liverpool Street and get Mexican food and nobody bothers Gary because no one knows who he is. And we're recording like the Crush It video launch on 8mm tape. And,
what year
and then,
is this,
you know, huh?
What year was that? Like when nobody knew who Gary Vee was?
That would be 08. 08 / maybe twice in 08 or 08 and into 09.
Wow. History.
So Gary was to the agency what Russell was to Love Soul. There were these kind of like tipping point moments where certain dudes through luck or just maybe just even feeling sorry for us, they just stood next to us and they gave us a little bit of their light. And then, you know me, if you give me a little light, I've got a magnifying glass in my back pocket. I'll take that light and stretch it and then try and make it glow a lot longer. It's easy to become a hot boy in London, it takes 3 years. You know what I mean? Okay. Like it took 3 years from me landing there I landed there, I think in end of Christmas Day 04. So call it, basically Jan 1 05. And by 2008, I did my birthday party in the Gherkin for like 500 people free of charge. So like, you just you got to look at all these opportunities and just keep going and actually have the ambition, have the audacity to do this shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I came from, my parents loved me and I never missed a meal, but I came from like, missing Christmases and having plastic on the windows because we couldn't afford double glazing and we couldn't see through the plastic when someone was stealing our car, or like not going on school trips, right? So, I mean, and at the same time, I'm going through all that and I'm, kind of like feeling that, as a teenager, as a kid, that shit hurts. You don't understand why you can't have stuff like the rest of these kids have, like the rest of these white kids have. And then I was like, but at the same time, like, who are my influences? Who's talking in my ear? Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Puffy, Jay, Buster, Big, like all, the people criticize the shiny suit era.
All hustlers.
Yeah, people criticize the shiny suit era, but you can't get a shiny suit unless you're getting money. And if you're getting money, you're inspiring other young motherfuckers to get money. And I've never said this before. I wanted to keep this for you today because it came to me the other day when I was thinking, and I think it's a fucking moment of genius. You know why we fuck with hip hop so much, we as brown people? Because growing up in a country that didn't really fuck with us through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? No job opportunities, bank managers not showing you love, 7 people living in a 2-bedroom house, typical fucking brown guy story. We as young people that were coming up in the 80s and 90s, we were like phones without operating systems. And we had the operating system of our parents, which is stay at home, son, work hard, stay out of trouble. And then we had the operating system of white people, which is like football, rugby, and, you know, start drinking at 16 in those days.
Yeah.
And neither of those operating systems work for us because we can't stay in the house because we're chronically bored because we live in a different era to our parents. We can't go out onto a park bench and start drinking at 17 because if somebody finds out, we're going to get our ass beat. And so there was one other operating system, which was the black people operating system. And so we then saw Sade and Omar and Mark Morrison, and then eventually Big and Jay and Pac. And we were like, okay, I can't go all the way desi like my parents. I can't go all the way white like these guys. These black people are just about cool enough.
As close as I
can aspire to be. I can aspire to be like them. And they're just about rebellious enough that even though I'm not going to punch a guy for calling me a packy, at least if push comes to shove, I know that I can. Yeah. Because they're getting called the N-word and getting jailed and beaten up by police. We're getting beaten up by, you know, ignorant racists. All right, fuck it. Okay, fuck it, ODB. I will do it your way. Because Amitabh Bachchan's not telling you to do it. And fucking Frank from EastEnders is not telling you to do it. Bruce Forsyth's not telling you to do it. So thank God for black people and thank God for African Americans because they came along and they kind of gave an operating system for a whole generation of young brown people.
Yeah. Oh shit, man! I would love to ask Val that. I mean, I will ask him. I will play him this clip back and say, "Do you resonate with this? Is this why it sticks with you?" Because we used to live above the pharmacy. We used to live above the post office, and we saw mum and dad do that whole 9 to 5, 9 to 7, Monday to Saturday. And he was obviously bored at home. Like, he used to play computer games all the time. He was lazy but incredibly smart. And I think the music that he's put into me is because he enjoyed it. But I think a part of what you said does resonate with him, and I think it's very, very true. So I will definitely brief him on that and see what it says. But damn, Raj, I didn't think of it in that way, but you pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Black OS.
That's it. That's the terminology.
Black OS.
Upgrade.
Raj, how did you get into being a DJ? So in between the midst of all this, how did you learn how to scratch, make mixes, etc.? Because I can't lie, this is no me kissing your ass, but the most fun I've had at an Indian wedding was Bal's wedding when you came on and did that set for an hour. And it was a set of like normal music. It wasn't Bhangra, it wasn't Punjabi music. It was simply mainstream music at that time. And it was fucking amazing. And I haven't felt that in so long, and I didn't know that you could do that. But I was thinking, damn, if he's this good then, how did you pick up those skills? Because Bal tried to get me into the whole DJing thing, and I didn't have the mind for it. I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, well, firstly, thanks. That's incredibly sweet. The way I got into it is when I was not allowed to go out in the evenings and I had to go back and work in my dad's shop, there was always music playing in the shop, background music, radio. So I'm constantly listening to Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, Duran Duran, you know, anything that's in the charts, Belinda Carlisle, Rob Bass, you know what I mean? Like everything, non-stop, like hip hop music, Snoop, Dre, Janet Jackson. So you don't realize when you're in it that you're listening to all the lyrics, you're learning everything. Then your MTV Raps on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah.
Pat Sharp, Top 40, Sunday. Any, you know, Top of the Pops, 7 o'clock, Thursday. Like I was just absorbing music. I realized that by the time I got to university, that I really, really know music inside out. And I'd probably at that point collected a couple of hundred CDs because I was making money. So I was like, it was all going into R Price and HMV and eventually like Virgin.
Yeah.
I remember walking into one of those stores and it was £330 for a DJ in a box. And if you had NUS card, you get 10% off. So it's £297 for a DJ in a box. So I got 2 turntables and a mixer, and it's belt driven. I didn't realize that there was a difference between the turntables. And at that stage, I just started, you know, mixing records. I think the first one was Basement Jaxx and Bingo Bongo. And then I got a couple of other records, and yeah, I just played those records over and over again until they like were scratched out and warped. And then I realized that actually this isn't going to cut it. Stopped for a while because I was, you know, I basically only ever needed to DJ at that point because I was the promoter. So I'd start taking my turntables and DJing prior to anybody coming to my venues, because from 9 till 10, nobody's in the venue anyway. So I'm either going to spend £45 paying a guy to DJ for an hour, or take that £45 budget every week and go and buy more vinyl with it. So that's really how it happened. But I didn't really jump in the deep end. Where I really, really started DJing and where I knew that I wanted to DJ is in 2003, I went to a party by DJ Starting From Scratch, who's the best DJ in the world, in Toronto. And we were at a Halloween party, and I think there must have been like 350, 400 black people there. And he played Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, and everybody sang it at the top of their voice.
No way, really?
And I was like,
I'd never have married those two things up ever.
Firstly, Toronto, God bless it, is one of the most mixed, tolerant, multi-stimulus, multicultural places in the world. And that's where what eventually became open format and mashups, that culture was alive and well there for probably decades, right? You can listen to like Bruce Springsteen and then go straight into Run DMC and then go straight into like, like house music and Masters at Work. It was just crazy. So when I heard Starting From Scratch playing whatever he wanted to whoever he wanted and maintaining 11 out of 10 dance floor pressure, like people are sweating dancing to him, I was like,
not one to leave ever.
Now I can't just go home and play like 112 and Adina Howard and Ja Rule featuring Ashanti and all the stuff that keeps
all
young
the
brown
basic
people
shit
bouncing. I was like, I need to go in and play the music that I love, because truth be told, I love Womack and Womack, and I love, the stereo MCs as much as I love Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Right. So then I was at another party. I saw Jazzy Jeff. I had a Sony Ericsson phone in my pocket, and I kept taking pictures over and over again because he wasn't changing his vinyl.
And you're watching how
one of those pictures came out and it had Serato written on it. So I reached out to Serato in California and I said, yo, man, like, I've just done this Russell Peters party. I'm going to do the Mobos, do all these other bits and pieces. Actually, it was probably way pre-Mobos. And I was the first DJ in the UK to get given Serato and Rain equipment in those
just because
days.
You called him and you just said, yeah, I'll send it.
Well, the first box I bought, I had imported through a family friend. They bought it and imported it in their bag from the US. So I did SL1 box. And then after that, I already, I was making content. And I think if you go online, you'll see like me and Q-Tip and Kanye at Kanye's party. And I'm like videoing all of Q-Tip's equipment. It's the Rain TT7, TT57 SL, and sending that content back to the guys at Rain in California. I think the guy's name was Dean Standing. Bro, you're making me remember shit from like, and the fact that I can't remember like people's birthdays, but like makes and models.
But you remember the exact detail of the exact mixer he had from nearly 20 years ago in a picture.
I think that Q-Tip one might have been 09. It was in the party. It was like obviously a whole bunch of people. There was that guy from Radio 1 that went on to become like another presenter. And then, there was Kanye, Mr. Hudson, Q-Tip, and a few other people. And then me with my camera and just recording that shit.
That makes sense because that makes sense because in 09, that was when 808s came out with Kanye. So Kanye and Mr. Hudson, they would have done that collaboration on that song. I forgot what it is. Why Are You So Paranoid? Is it that one or another one? But yeah, mad. Damn, Raj. Well, that explains a lot. So you've touched on this already, but how did you meet Gary Vaynerchuk properly? How did that meeting come about? You obviously sent him an email. In his book, I've even read the book. It says, email me, Gary at VaynerMedia, and I will respond. And I'm assuming you got in early and he did respond.
Yeah, I mean, he said it so many times that it warranted taking a leap of faith. So I emailed him. He said, come along to this hotel I'll be checking out at this time. We waited in the lobby. There was like a handful of other nerds there, like 4 or 5 people. They all had like flip cams and Blackberries. And so they just take little pictures of him or whatever. We got there an hour earlier. My friend Anish and Vic, we were there. We took all the camera equipment we had, a mixing board, multiple microphones, and we built basically a TV studio in his breakfast bar, in his breakfast room, a public breakfast room. And he sat, as he came in, he was like, "Oh, you guys are serious." And I was like, "Yeah, man, we're serious." And then he gave us, I think, a 45-minute interview and a 30-minute interview. And that was the first creative content agency podcast back in 2008. And I think Crush It had just come out, but he hadn't even done a launch. And a few months later, he came back and we even videoed the launch. So yeah, I mean, he was making a big deal, so much of a big deal about the fact that if you email me, I'll email you back, that I had nothing to lose. And then, you know, a few years later, we launched Jab, 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 Right Hook in 2013.
Yeah.
And then we did the first overseas Ask Gary V show in 2016, which was combined with the official book launch of the Ask Gary V show. And yeah, both with me on stage interviewing him, and really me and him duking it out. I take pride in my ability to research people and ask questions. And you can't ask for a dude more tenacious than Gary V, because to ask Gary a hard question is like landing a punch on his jawline. Yeah. And as much as he's my older brother and I kind of really love the dude and respect him, when we're both on stage together, I'm trying to take him to a place that he's not been before.
Yeah.
Because that's how you make history, right? Rather than like, tell me about working in your dad's liquor store. I'm like, no. Tell me about what you'd rather watch.
Yeah. Everyone's heard those answers. You want to ask him something different.
Yeah, like tell me, would you rather watch an episode of Daily V with your father set in 1973 or your son set in 2036?
Yeah. Yeah, you asked that in VaynerWorld.
That kind of shit. You know what I mean?
You did a mic drop.
That was brilliant.
I watched that. I was like, this is so good.
It's like let's make history, man. Let's not just do, you know, when everybody else was just doing what they were doing in the DJing scene, like doing their little parties, having their road shows. I was like, nah, we're gonna take over the Gherkin. And then when everybody was like going deeper and deeper into music, I was like, no, I'm going to take everything I've learned in music and go and do conferences and start consulting and working with brands. And even like, you know, nobody was really looking at Gary. People would laugh me off the phone when I was like, yo, I'm doing something with this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk. They're like, Gary, who? Fuck off. Do you know what I mean? And then you got to stick your neck out a little bit more than most people. Again, guys, it's really fucking crucial that people hear this, because as much as I'm talking all this shit, I'm really happy. I'm really happy, and I'll tell you why.
But yeah, we don't get the sense you're not happy.
as in like, I'm saying like you got to do all this shit, but like, but people are already doing it. I'm in these little clubhouse rooms with all these little younger cats, right? And I'm so proud of the fact that these young brown boys and girls in their 20s, all right, they're talking about some stuff that I don't really rock with in some cases, but in some cases, they're talking about, you know, real shit, entrepreneurship, building businesses. You know, some of them still struggle with talking to their parents about going their own path. And that's cool. I never had that issue. I understand that that's like winning the lottery in the 80s and 90s. But, you know, I love the fact that they're like making content and they're making vlogs. Hey, I'm a management consultant. Here's how I ended up getting a job here. Or like, when I see, like, there was really nobody doing that in those days. Never mind doing it with the Wu-Tang Clan. Like, people were just not jumping on camera and spitting their shit. And I think that with Asians, you know, whether it be Asians like, how do you say, East Asia, Southeast Asia, whatever, like basically anybody who's Asian, right? Whether you're like from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, Japan, Thailand, whatever, we're generally not known as being the most like brash out there people. You know what I mean?
We tend to be very conservative and within ourselves.
We tend to be conservative. We're risk averse.
Toe the straight and narrow. Don't ever go off it. Like, do the right thing. Get a secure job. Be secure. Be okay.
Yeah, many of us have come from colonized economies. Many of us have come from economies where, you know, to make a living, you often end up in a service role, and some of that DNA spilled over into society and into the youth in the UK and into our parents' generation and their parents' generation. And I was like, fuck that. I'm about to do what I want to do because I've got nothing to lose. I've already missed out Christmases. I've already missed out on fucking school trips. So I've got nothing to lose. And then you got that Jay-Z and that Biggie and that Tupac in my head. And it's like, I love the fact that, okay, whereas I might have been one of the first couple of dozen boys and girls to do it, I love the fact that so many people are doing it. Guys, you motherfuckers doing it right now makes me so happy.
What, just
because you guys didn't even think twice about doing this. Like, and then thank God, because you're so young, you can flip open your laptop, use your webcam, use your headphones, and bada bing, you're off. And, back in our day, it was some bullshit. It was really hard to A, break the mold, and then B, go and spend your real hard-earned cash to go and buy equipment and tapes, and then take those tapes in real time, wind them and encode them into a laptop. So I love all this. I don't even know if my advice even still stands about having to stick your neck out, because I'm so proud because so many young brown people are doing it already.
No, Raj. No. I can't emphasize this enough. Yeah. It still stands, man. I'm telling you, I need to tell you a bit about you, where you changed my life. So, do you remember when you were putting tickets on for VaynerWorld? You put it on Facebook, and you were pumping it. And I was looking at it, and I was like, I did the same thing that all those people did to you on the phone. I was like, who's this Gary guy? Like, nah, man, I'm not into that. And I was like, do I go? Do I not go? I messaged Bauer. I said, do I go? He's like, yeah, maybe you can go. And I was like, you know what? Nah, leave it. It's not for me. And then I remember I reached out to you a few months later, and I was like, Raj, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling great about work. I'm inspired by you and how you do things. Tell me how you do things. And you took me through that perfect day example, right? You said, tell me about your perfect day. And then you wrote down all these attributes about me that I didn't even know I had, right? And I was like, shit, I've got all these attributes and I didn't even know I had them. And you said, you know what? Watch this clip. It will change your fucking life. I watched VaynerWorld, and I had more questions than actual answers. It didn't change my life a little bit, but it opened my eyes to the potential of the world. And I was like, all right, I've sat there pondering for years. What's the thing to do? I've messed around with a few things. And now I really enjoy this podcasting thing with Karan. And it's just worked out well. But it's all because I had that conversation with you, and I had that accessibility through Bal to talk to you about these things. And that helped me a lot. But people need to hear this, because even though the barrier to entry is low, people's self-esteem, I've noticed, is getting lower and lower. And they feel scared to take a leap into this space and do something like that, because what's this person going to think? What's that person going to think? Are my parents okay with it, etc.? All those things still stand. And I think it is important to keep on emphasizing it and drilling it to people, because that's what Gary does, right? He keeps on drilling it to people, saying, don't care about what other people think, etc. It's the same message on loop. And some people say to me, why does he keep saying the same fucking thing? I'm like, because people need to keep on fucking hearing it. You may not hear it for you now because it's not applicable for you, but in 3 years' time, it might be. So, yeah.
I disagree with that.
The best bit of advice I've heard from Gary, I listen to a lot of Gary's content, and it didn't really resonate with me until I kind of got to that point I was telling you earlier, Raj, about the burnout and doing loads of different things, trying to be in property, coaching, having a podcast, doing content, trying to do everything basically, plus being a doctor, is this example he gives about micro and macro. I still, in my coaching business now, I use it all the time. And he says, look, day to day, micro, you got to go ham. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from you, that, there's 24/7 days. But he said, macro, there's got to be patience. Because I know when I got into that, my kind of entrepreneurship, it was thinking that success is going to be exponential. And then it didn't come straight away. And I was like, okay, so why isn't it coming? And then I had that, and it just resonated with me so hard. And I was just like, okay, you just need to trust the process. Like you said, that hamster wheel, the 22 things and the bicycle chain, and eventually things fall into place and you start being around the right circles, you start networking with the right people. What I love about your story, though, is it's different. Your story is almost, you had conscious awareness at the time you were doing things, and you had foresight and intuition to be like, this is really important. I know it's really important. I don't care who else knows. And you have this conviction, which I think a lot of people lack. And I think, I think it's Steve Jobs says this thing about how opportunity comes from behind and whispers in your ear. It doesn't come right in front of you, and you can't connect the dots looking for it, only when they look back. But you trusted the process so much, and now it sounds like you're at a good place in your life where you're retrospective, you're introspective, and you can look at this and reflect on shit, man, I did what I want when I wanted, and I had the conviction of knowing it. It doesn't sound like you kind of just went out on a whim. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you had a goal and you kind of knew it was going to go, and you took massive action, man. And I love it. I think it's really, really inspiring.
I think I might be able to summarize it even simpler than that, right? Okay, this is really important. I don't give a fuck.
That's straight. That's it.
You got to bear in mind, I grew up with very little. I grew up with love, 3 meals a day, and that's about it. And a shop that I could work in as much as I wanted to. And thank God I took to entrepreneurship like every other man in my family. The generation above me, the generation above them, I don't get, what the fuck have I got to lose by doing a party in the Gherkin? What the fuck have I got to lose by asking Gary V to let me interview him? What the fuck have I got to lose by working with, Russell or the Wu-Tang Clan or Dynamo. What the fuck have I got to lose? In 2010, bro, I was 30 years old. I'd already exited a company in Los Angeles that sold for millions of dollars to The Guardian. And I was sleeping in a converted living room in a single bed with all my possessions and the videos on the internet. I have nothing
to lose.
Nothing to lose. It's motherfucking ride or die. Like, what the fuck have I got to lose? Nothing. Just fuck it, man. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. What the fuck have I got to lose? Nothing. You want to see my crib now? It's crazy. This was all waiting for me. This shit was all waiting for me. But had I hesitated or had I tried to over-rationalize it, and I did do sometimes I'd over-rationalize, like I wasn't ready to do the Wu-Tang Clan project until DJ Friction pushed me past the 99% mark and made me do it. I wasn't ready to start my own crew in Manchester until this guy, DJ Ahmed, forced me to do it. I'm not saying that I can put enough fuel in my tank to make it the whole journey, but I can go so far that I'm so freaking close that somebody will recognize it in me and be like, you'd be stupid if you stop now, bro. And now I live like fantasy life. And I'm, by the way, if you are a average junior banker in the city of London, you're doing way better than I'm doing. I'm not a man of wealth, but from what I hear, on your deathbed, it's about how much time you were in control of in your life. How many experiences you were able to have.
Absolutely.
And if you've got any regrets. And I can tell you right now that whether I die with an unlimited black card in my pocket or I die with nothing. Guys, do you know how much free time I've had since graduating my master's? I've basically controlled
hardly any.
I've controlled, but as in the sense that I've worked all the time by choice.
Correct.
But the canvas that is the schedule that society creates for me has been empty. I want to go work for a company in Los Angeles, off I go. I want to move to Canada, off I go. I want to go to Bali for a month and work from there, off I go. I want to work flat out every single day, Christmas, New Year's, and end up in hospital, off I go. Right decision, wrong decision, doesn't matter.
Your decision.
It's my decision. I had full control of my time. Like, I am 40 years old. The vast majority of my adult life since hustling, I haven't set my alarm before I go to bed. Do you know what that means to wake up?
That means all you do.
You're a doctor. Maybe you can tell me, what does it mean to wake up naturally? Nowadays, it's 5 days out of 7. But what does it mean to wake up naturally on average in the last 2 decades? Probably 82% of my waking mornings. That shit's good for you, bro.
It's the best medicine. That's all I can say, right? But, I like what you're touching on here. And Raj, I don't know if you do this as one of your other hustles, because you're clearly a very talented guy, but I'm in the coaching space. And I started thought it was like a life coach. That was too broad. I didn't really understand my niche. I then started trying to do business coaching, didn't like that. And I kind of fell into what I do now, which is work with essentially burnt out doctors and professionals, bankers, lawyers, to give them authenticity, or how to live authentically. This is my whole MO. If you hang around with Indy, he'll tell you. Actually, Indy and his missus, right? They're quite mean to me. They play current bingo. So Indy creates, he edits all my content, he shoots all my content. He's in all my clubhouse rooms. Obviously, we podcast together as well. So anytime I'm speaking about authentic living and how to live the life you want to live, these guys sit there and they write down words that I say, and they'd say, "Yeah, bing, bing." He's saying that same shit again. Live your best life, whatever. Right? But what I love is I got a real example right here of somebody who understands that the real asset in life is time, but also you're giving the attention to the time that you create. So you're doing whatever you want by choice. And people ask me all the time, Jazz or Karan, what is your definition of success? And you are answering that for me, which is freedom. Freedom and choice. Do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want. And it sounds like you've cracked that formula, but it's come from a place where you've just had so many vast and varied experiences, and now you've got this wealth of wisdom, and you're doing what you want. And I think that's beautiful. And I think when people ask, where's happiness going to come from? Where's contentment going to come from? Whereas this is it. This is finding what you love and your passion, like you said, but actually be able to execute on it as well. So my question for you now, Raj, is this: you've got this lifestyle that you want, so you have the time, the freedom that you want. When you were kind of hustling to get to this point, right? Let's say this is the point you want to be at. What is it you now do with your time outside of your creative work? What is the other pursuits that you have?
Last year, I listened to 3,671 minutes, I think, of podcasts. The numbers on my Instagram, but
right.
I mean, that's if you break that up into 8-hour working days,
right?
That's 61 consecutive working days. So if you broke that up into working weeks, it'd probably be about 2 to 3 months. I love studying. I love studying the work of, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, Scott Galloway. I love listening to Group Chats, #1 podcast in the world. I love listening to Pivot, Kara Swisher, Gary V, Jay Abraham. I just love studying and trying to better myself and trying to add more apps into my operating system in my head, whether it be listening to, female entrepreneurs about how they're going through what they're going through and how does their experience differ, or whether it be through kind of like psychologists or philosophers or I don't care whether it's Jordan Belfort or Jordan Peterson. I want to know what's going on.
I like that comparison.
And that's how I occupy my free time, because guys, I'll be honest with you, my genre is the game. Like my genre is hustling. I love it. And I'm not, when I continue to study and try and better myself out of hours, i.e. from the second I wake up, I put on a podcast. There are times, maybe couple of times a year where I'll charge the phone in the next room, but it doesn't really damage me to wake up in the morning and switch a podcast on, because I'm not looking at my phone. I'm just listening to it whilst I'm showering. I'm in a relaxed flow state, and that information is going straight, bypassing my short-term memory and at least going into my medium-term memory, where it's got 6 to 12 months of recall value in there. That's how I spend my time. Or really just also a lot of my friends have got kids, and I just love fucking asking them to fucking chase after this water bottle or whatever bullshit kids, it's fucking chocolate or I like just because they are, the thing is, I need extreme relaxation. And the only way you can do that is by being kind of subservient to a kid and being the kid's give me that ball. So you're all right, let me get you that ball. They're looking at life so innocently and from such a playful place that's the only time I can super switch off. Otherwise, listening to music, going for walks, riding on my scooter, going to nice coffee shops, just honestly just bullshit ass stuff, man. But it could change. I mean, I might become addicted to freaking MMA tomorrow or kayaking, and then that'll be my thing for a couple of years, But really, I love staying switched on. I love it. I love it.
You love being switched on, right? So I was on holiday. I think I was in Zurich.
Switzerland.
Yeah, so I was in Zurich, and I was messaging Indy about something. I always take my MacBook with me. I love doing stuff. Even on my holiday, I have to be productive. I love being productive, right? And he messaged me, and he said something like, do you ever switch off? This is Indy to me. This is pre-podcast, I don't think we were making content back then, so I was doing some other stuff with him. And are you a Marvel fan, Raj?
Sorry?
You watch Marvel?
Yeah, but my recall value on movies, as soon as the credits are done, I'm like, who the hell is Thanos again?
Okay, Hulk. you know the Hulk is, though.
I know who.
So the Hulk.
The Hulk. Yeah.
Right, so the original Avengers film, the first one, there's a scene where basically he asks him, the Hulk, somebody asks the Hulk, how do you stay calm? And he turns around, he says, no, it's not that I stay calm, I'm always angry. Then he turns into the Hulk. And I gave Indy this whole spiel. I was like, the trick is I never switch off, and I'm always switched on. But that's how I'm able to stay, so wired, so connected, and get so many things done. So I absolutely resonate with what you mean. And actually, because I looked at this whole thing about, my sister kept saying to me, you've got toxic productivity or something like that. And I was like, but I don't know, man. I don't feel alive unless I'm doing a few things, and they don't have to be. They can be quite passive. And when I got into listening to podcasts and audiobooks, I was like, this is phenomenal, man. This is game changing. Like, there's so much dead space, especially when you're commuting as well. And there's like, I don't want to medical bullshit. And I say to doctors all the time, I was like, you need to stop reading medical books. Like, learn about other life shit, and it's going to help you be a better doctor. I'm a better doctor because I know how to manage people. End of discussion. Because I understand leverage, I understand, NLP, and I understand all this other stuff that medicine doesn't teach you. So yeah, I love it, man. Stay switched on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think that there's no home for switching off. I love being switched on. But I mentioned I went to Bali for a month. Yeah, first, the downside of loving being switched on is that whole like, let's go to the beach for the weekend staycation 2 nights thing is a complete hemorrhage and waste of money for me. Because in 2 nights, my mental state's not going to change. But when I went to Bali, by like the 5th, 6th or 7th night, I woke up the next morning after after a week of being in Bali, and I was Mr. Live in shorts, flip-flops, tie my hair up, spend every single day on a moped, going in search of coffee and papaya salad. Like when I go in, I go all the way into like super relaxation mode. And at that time, it's because it acts as a treatment, it acts as a healing process for the fact that I may have been switched on for 3.5 years prior to that 3 weeks off. So there is a home for it, but I apply relaxation more like medication rather than something I need to do on a like nightly basis. If I'm a little bit, because don't forget, if I'm tired, like the time right now here in Dubai is 9:27. I'm not Mr. like work till 2 a.m. every night. Let's go. If at 11 minutes past 10, I'm like, fuck this, I'm done for the day. I'll go and brush my teeth, shower, jump into bed. I'm done. Like when I'm out, when I'm done with all the stuff that I wanted to do that day, all the thinking, whether I finish my tasks or not, when my body's like, yo, dude, we got to climb into that bed, then I'm out. And then when my body goes, yo, dude, it's time to wake up and get it, let's fucking go again. You know what I mean?
Raj, I need to ask you, how can you move from London to Dubai? So initially you were in Manchester, you moved to London, and now to Dubai. How come you did that?
The A406, the North Circular.
Yeah, I know the A406.
I fucking hate that bitch, man. I hate that fucking road. So like many of you know that, the truth is that many of you know that one of my close boys, Sujan Shah, that I did VaynerWorld with, and we've done parties together and all sorts of shit. That's like one of my dogs for life. Like we spent a bit of time working on his group of businesses, and I lived in Northwest London in Harrow, in Hatch End, and his office was in Edmonton. So I used to have to do about 50 minutes to 60 minutes in the morning in peak time traffic. And that used to really rub me up the wrong way. And, I was pushing nice cars as well. It's not as if I was like uncomfortable doing the trip. But it was just,
the stop.
Yeah. And it was always like fucking with me. And then, my sister's been in Dubai for the last 11, 12 years. And one of my good friends from university, Rupa Ganatra, she was a corporate girl. She ended up starting her own business, started hustling. She ended up in the events world, ended up building an international events portfolio in and around branding and consumer tech and retail. And she came to Dubai for one of her events, and she said, would you mind moderating a panel? And I said, no problem. Who's going to be on the panel? And she said, Huda Beauty, Huda Katan, which is like literally bigger than Kim Kardashian here in this city. Google, Sephora, which is a makeup retailer, and some other company.
Yeah, Sephora, yeah.
Came out here to moderate the panel, got off stage. Louis Vuitton, all these other people came up to me and gave me their business card. They were like, incredible job on stage. We'd love to talk to you. And, by the time I actually like reached the floor of the when I come off stage, I come down the steps. I've got so many business cards in my hand. I thought to myself, damn, if I was in London, it would take like a year and a half to get all these business cards. And it happened here in 23 seconds. So I was like, okay, I need to start paying a bit more attention to Dubai. So instead of coming here, once a year, I think that trip that I came on was meant to be like 6 weeks. I didn't leave the UK because my granddad was alive. So I was like, I get all of I get the best version of enjoyment and happiness from my granddad. So whilst he's alive, it doesn't matter what's going on else around the world. I'm just going to, just be here because I can always drive from London to Leicester and go and see him. So 1 week into my 6 week trip in Dubai, where I've not moved, I'm just out here just, for a couple of extra weeks longer than I would be normally, or like 4 extra weeks than I would be normally. A week into my trip here, he dies. So I'm like, fuck.
Wow.
I go back straight away, handle all that, fucked up situation, whatever. And then I was like, look, well, the anchor that was keeping me in the UK, which is my granddad. And by the way, it's not as if we were like, bouncing around together and, eating chocolates. Like, he was already bedridden and couldn't walk and blind and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but even then, him being alive was enough for me to be at home. Like, it was enough for me to be in the UK, 100 miles away from him. And then as soon as he went, I kind of was just like, well, fuck it. He's not here. I mean, I've got nothing right now I've got nothing keeping me in the UK. My mom and dad are like the most supportive kind of like male female cheerleader combo you could ever ask for. So they were like, do what the fuck you want. My sister was already here. My sister is in essence my sponsor, like not in terms of like on paper, but like, she let me stay in her house. I like stayed on a mattress in her floor for like a year, whilst having a beautiful 2-bedroom house in London. So like I could have just chosen the easy route and just continued to like live that life in London. But I just felt like the opportunity was much bigger, and it was better to go back like 7 steps and,
Raj,
pay out my own pocket.
Common theme I'm getting is that you're always, you get to somewhere and then you want to like start again. You get to somewhere, then you want to start again. You get to somewhere, you want to start again. And it makes me think, do you enjoy that journey of just starting again and going again in a brand new place?
We have a doctor on the line. He'll tell you about like interval training, right? And like grow the muscle, break it, let it heal. Grow it, tear it, let it heal. I have in my life been in the beauty industry, working in non-invasive cosmetics with German laboratories. I've been in the technology industry. I've been in media and entertainment. I've been in events. I've been in hospitality and foreign direct investment, real estate. Where else are we now? Furniture, packaging, golf, retail and e-tail. Like, these are hardcore fucking reps. These are reps working different muscle groups. Now, whichever lucky motherfucker becomes my next client has 11, 12 industries worth of compound knowledge and triangulation, because I learned this selling golf clubs, and I learned this doing music events, and I learned this working with Wu-Tang, and I learned this in Rwanda. I bring all that shit to the table. So I think the reason is it's not so much like the perversion of starting again. This is not like some career S&M. This is just like, I want to get reps in different industries so that no one can fucking test me. It's bro, the way I hustle is like MMA for the brain. I want to do 2.5 years of Thai boxing, 2.5 years of jiu-jitsu, 2.5 years of taekwondo, 2.5 years of kickboxing, 2.5 years of traditional boxing, 2.5 years of whatever the fuck you want. It's for me, it's that because you never know when you're going to be in an alleyway and how it's going to go down. And that alleyway, by the way, is not a threat. That alleyway is an opportunity. Something can come along your way and you're like, cool, I can speak that language. You know how fucking comfortable I am after 22 years in this game, sitting down with pretty much anyone. And if I don't understand their industry, I've got a long toolkit in my mind of how to ask those 8 to 20 meaningful questions that will at least allow me to speak to them in their language in somewhat of a fluent fashion.
Because you've been exposed to so many different environments and different scenarios where you're able to just think, oh, I've dealt with something similar like this here. I can ask that question. I might be able to get a response, etc.
Yeah. And so your profit there is first principles. You build up a series of first principles. How does the world work? Water is wet. Gravity generally pushes down. Fire generally sends heat up. There are certain things that are hard-coded into our existence on this planet. And there are also certain things hard-coded in the way that we build businesses and brands and become entrepreneurs and form and harvest relationships.
Absolutely.
And so that's the compound effect of years and years and years, 20 odd years of just doing this shit. And that's 20 years of doing it legally. Like, that's 20 years of it being official. Like, prior to that, I was hustling. Like, prior to that, I was, taking fireworks out of my dad's shop and selling them. You know what I mean? I'm sure we're way outside like the window of me getting arrested for doing this shit. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's why, dude. That's why I like the up and down, because each down is followed by an up. And the more ups you've had in your life, the more you can trade for bigger ups in the future.
Yeah. And when you say your parents were also really supportive of you and they're your two biggest cheerleaders, tell me more about that, because having parents like that is quite rare, really, especially from your era, which is 10 years even prior to mine. So what was that like, and how do you think that they've developed in that area just to let you just be free for you and your sister to go and do the things that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so on both sides, my grandparents were both business people. My granddad on my dad's side had a shop, and my granddad on my mom's side was an industrialist. And, you know, my mom grew up very, very rich, like fucking Hillary from Fresh Prince, like nice car. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like she had all the fly shit. And my dad, and she grew up in Nairobi, which is like, you know, the New York of East Africa. And my dad grew up in Mombasa, which is just a beach place, and he was a bum. And I don't know, the stories that I know of is just like him having a good time is like, you know, going into the water and trying to catch a lobster with his like local Muslim friends, and like, you know, just like doing his thing like that. So like, you know, I had these two contrasting people. Yet on the flip side, when my mom and my dad married, and they could have both been rich or both been poor, they ended up being poor, which ended up being a good thing. And then, you know, my mom was just like really, really caring and, you know, very, very like glass half full. And my dad had this like incredible work ethic. But, you know, imagine this, like, you know, 1993, I've done my SATs and my whatever the fucking year 9 thing is. And I'm like,
SATs,
they're like,
that's correct.
and they're like, you know, people are like, my parents don't even know that I've got to like choose my GCSEs until I tell them, because they're not from that kind of like system. And they're like, you know, what do you want to do for your GCSEs? And I'm like, I'm going to do drama and English and, you know, just these like subjects that seem like fun, and no pushback whatsoever. No, like, how are you going to be a pharmacist if you do drama? Like they didn't have those models. They didn't even know what courses led to what outcomes. So they were like, all right, do your thing. So for my
their experience kind of helped you then in a way. So they just let you be free, because they didn't know that to be a pharmacist you might have to do X, Y, Z. They just thought, yeah, it's cool, just go and do what you want. And that sounds really freeing.
Yeah, and also I think that was one of the benefits of growing up in a white town, is that we didn't have that nearby Indian society. We had two Punjabi Sikh families that lived on our road. They were just like some hustlers. They didn't give a fuck. They were just like all about, they were just about like, you know, singing, having a good time. And just, you know, 4,000 cousins. Just, it's just like a love fest, right? Like, you know, you guys are both Punjabi, you understand the vibes. It's just like happy smiles, good times, good food, good drinks, singing, dancing. Like, that's how they were getting down. Then we had like a couple of Gujarati families within 3 or 4 miles of us. They were a little bit more like on the kind of like simple side. And then my family, and then eventually we were 7 in the house, and we ended up getting 2 houses, and my uncle and his wife and both of our grandparents, when they were alive, they were kind of like huddled up together. And, you know, there was like 7, 8 of us, I think, when everything was said and done. And then, yeah, they just gave me that freedom, dude. And I'm telling you, I feel like, and, you know, no disrespect to these cities, because I've hustled there and I've loved being there. But like, you look at places like Harrow and stuff like that, I feel like if they grew up there, there'd be a lot more opinions around them. A lot more like, you know, I'm sure it'd come up like,
correct. Yeah.
I'm sure somebody would say to my dad, like, you know, oh, has Raj picked his GCSEs? And my dad goes, yeah, he's going to do drama because he's really into fucking Shakespeare. And they go, yeah, but what can he do with drama?
Yeah.
And then like you fast forward, you know, 24, 26 years, and they're like, well, what can you do with drama? And I'd be like, talk and be a confident motherfucker, you bitch. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I can do.
Best line ever. Yeah.
What can your son do other than freak out about the fact that he's on £144,000 a year working in the city of London? He can't handle being at home. He can't handle working at home. He doesn't want to marry the girl that you want him to marry because he's gay. And you fucked his whole life up, right? Whereas if you actually just gave him permission to just be who he wants to be, maybe you might have not fucked him up so bad, because money is not the whole game. Like, I won the parents' lottery. So
you really did, man, honestly.
So I'm just like, these are the things that I think I'm a lot more like grateful for than, you know, and whilst it was hard, and whilst, you know, being around aggressive, racist white people in the 80s and 90s did mean, you know, fighting with your hands as a bare minimum on top of a whole bunch of other shit that had to happen to make it through those years. Yeah, I'll take it, because it kept, it didn't fuck up the operating system inside the house.
Wow. 2 more questions, Raj, and I'll let you go. So when did you really begin to start understanding the importance behind personal branding? I think you touched on this already, which is when you were a DJ in the club, and then you started noticing, I want to change and sprinkle my name into it a little bit more and make it the consulting side. But how do you distinguish the difference between your personal branding and, say, your business ventures? How do you make sure that Raj Kotecha is still getting its name out there instead of just being the mind behind Creative Content Agency?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If you look at the recall rate of people that know my business versus people that know me, it stacks heavily towards me. I'm sure most people don't even really, you know, I've got clients that have spent so much money with us that still say, they don't say creative content agency, they say content creation agency. They don't know. It's, as far as they're concerned, it's just the name on the top left-hand side of an invoice.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is, and I had this dilemma, and I spoke to many of, you know, the people that I've mentioned already on this podcast about it. I was like, you know, should I have a separate Instagram for like Raj Kotecha and a separate one for DJ Raj Love Soul, a separate one for Creative Content Agency? But over time, what I've realized is we don't have the option of curating what people find out about us. We can curate what people, how we present ourselves, and we can on purpose leave certain doors closed or put bin bags over those doors, hoping that people won't find out that, you know, we were like in Louisiana doing body shots of people, right? But the reality is, the more comfortable you are with yourself, and the more stuff that you're unashamed to present to people online, the more you can present online, and the more you can take that presentation and then convert it into one of your real businesses. So I don't hide the fact that I'm a DJ. In fact, I talk about it all the time. If that's the way an interview goes, like today's interview is gone, that's fine. Yeah, at the same time, having done all that, I'm going to walk into a boardroom tomorrow where no one knows I'm a DJ or have ever been a DJ. And they'll consider themselves having done their due diligence on me. And yet, for all that shit that's online, they don't know. So the reality is, you know, more often than not, people don't care. People, you know, the kind of good fortune that we've had in our generation, you've had the option of, like, you know, being a barman in South Africa, and then going to Thailand and working in an elephant orphanage, and then going to Sydney, and then, you know, working on a boat, and then coming back to London, and then being like head of finance for a fintech startup. Like, just do you just kind of do what the fuck you want. And you will spend more time and lose more opportunity trying to get the balance right between your personal brand and your business brand than if you just went all in on your personal brand and then just let the dominoes fall however they do. And more often than not, except for in fringe cases where you know, maybe you've done some wild shit, but like more often than not, it works out in your favor.
Because that's one thing I've struggled with. I do think that's a strong answer. One thing I struggled with was when we launched the podcast, I did it all through my own Instagram. Then I thought it's going to be difficult because it's a collaboration effort with me and Karan. It might be better to have a separate account and run everything through there so we can both interact with it, both get people on there and just start new. I'm happy to do that, but I really had a battle within myself thinking, is that the good idea to go for? Is that the right thing to do?
What's your ultimate honest goal? Your ultimate goal is to have people listen to the podcast, right?
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to have people listen to the podcast and do this forever. Like, I'd love to do this forever. I get so much enjoyment out of it.
And no matter what, you can't prevent
I can't prevent people finding out that I'm a Bhangra dancer. I used to work in banking. I'm a marketer. I can't prevent that because that's out there. Like, I can't change it.
So you may as well lean into it, because you can't separate, you know, one of your uncles who lives on your road listening to it from a stripper in Bristol.
Yeah, true. You can't.
Once it's out there, it's out there. So you may as well own it. And if you are trying to overthink it, all you're doing is you're just keeping more heat off the internet. And
I think I did at the beginning.
You need heat for people to consume your content.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Cool.
I know I said last question for 2 more.
He's been mighty quiet. I feel like.
Tell me about the mugs, Karan. Tell me about the mugs idea. Because Raj put on his Instagram the other week. I want to talk about. I want people to send me a mug, and he said like I want mugs sent to me. So if I've spoken to you about this in the past, etc., I'm sorry. And I thought, Karan was bringing up the mugs idea for last week. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's right. We were just jamming about merchandise essentially, and it just came out live on one of our podcasts, which I think is always good when you have some good ideas just spring in your mind. And there are certain things. I mean, Indy started doing the podcast we didn't plan for. So generally, when we podcast, we'll drop a few Punjabi words and translate it for our non-Punjabi listeners, so they do it. And so I was just introducing the idea that wouldn't it be cool just to have. We were drinking stuff, and I got told off for drinking certain things that make like a lot of noise. Why don't we have a mug, have the branding on there, have like a catchphrase, and that's kind of where we are now at the moment, Indy. But we're just, what is the catchphrase? What is it people like about us? What is our target audience? We had a meeting last week with both of our wives, who are part of the senior leadership team, and they're the ones asking all the hard questions, like, so who do you want to talk to? I mean, India, like, we want to talk to everybody. And so we're at that point now where it's like, we think it's a good idea. We think it's good to get branding and tops and all this type of stuff. But is it the most important thing? And I liked what you asked to Indy. Why do you want the podcast? Because when he asked me, he's been asking me to do a podcast for like 3 years, and I've been saying, no, I'm busy. But my sister, she listens to a couple of cool podcasts. And these people are on Patreon. They get like 10, 20K a month. They do live shows. I said, that's why I want to do it. I want to sit on a stage and people come out and they watch us talk. I want to be Joe Rogan, right? I love being on stage. I'm a professional speaker. I could do this all day, man. But yeah.
Why do you want that?
Because I love people. I love connection with people. So people ask me, what's your purpose and stuff, right? And I tell people, well, my end game is to help people. I do that through medicine. I left medicine. And then I realized, and I just went into my side hustles, right? But I still felt empty. And I was like, no, I still need to be in medicine. Lockdown came in. Actually, 23rd of March, just gone, was the anniversary of lockdown in the UK. It's actually the anniversary of me being back in hospital 1 year exactly to the date. And so that was really special for me. And so the vehicles I operate in now is I have a medical teaching company. I teach people, undergraduates, postgraduates. I do coaching with people because I want to help people. I do medicine because I want to help people. I like talking to him because I want to open up the dialogue and broaden people's perspectives. I love what Jordan Peterson says. There's nothing more articulate. There's nothing better than being articulate and the ability to string, conversation together. That's why I want to do it. Is because
no, but that's not why. Why do you want to
do what specifically?
Content and help people, and why do you want to go on stage and help people?
That's my MO. I've been helping people for time.
Why?
It's because that's where I feel happiest. When I give, I feel happy.
Why do you feel happy?
Because giving is happiness. When it's more than yourself, when it's bigger than you are, when I'm part of a medical team, and fine, I can help one patient, but as a team, I can help 100 patients. That's when I feel that I'm doing it.
But why does specifically giving give you happiness?
Because that's the way I'm wired. That's it. It's my whole MO.
Okay. At what point did you recognize that wiring?
I recognize that wiring. That's a good question. See, if you ask my parents, they'd give you a different answer. They've got pictures of me when I'm like 1 year old, cleaning things at gurdwaras, and there's stories of me in India. I don't even, you know this, man. I used to go to people's weddings. Maybe not the wedding. Maybe the pre-wedding parties that people have.
Yeah.
I used to walk around. This is not my event. This is some random person's event, and help the cleaning team. I used to get black bags and empty plates into stuff. Really weird shit, man. Like I think about it now, I think it's just whatever. But consciously, how long have I known? Probably when I was about 15, 16, Raj, and I started to run this kind of free skills workshop thing in our local gurdwara, where I was like, basically I started teaching Sikh studies. That was where I started. But then I really wanted to make it about, well, you need to learn how to write a CV. You need to learn how to speak publicly. You need to learn how to have, making conversation. You need to learn how to interact with people. This stuff I learned because I went to private school, and Lambda was really important, public speaking and so on. But I didn't see the value of it until I started using it. And I was like, there's so many people that don't have this access to this. And that's when I started seeing I can't explain in words, articulate the gratification when I teach somebody something medical, like a student who's just like stuck, and then they get it and they have that light bulb moment. Or if I'm doing a breakthrough call with somebody's strategy, I'm doing life coaching and they get it. It's just like, for me, that's like, this is fucking time well spent. But my whole thing has been about, like, my coach to me, he's always like, you can either do something that you love for free and then do some other shit to pay the bills, or you learn how to sell what you do and you're good at it and just make a life like that. And that's kind of been my whole thing now. I love my medicine, but I don't do my medicine to pay the bills now. The property pays the bills. The coaching is what I love, and the medicine is what I love. That's kind of where I am now. So that's kind of when I knew, 15, 16.
So if going back to our original point there, where you were talking about, you can either, do what you want to do or sell what you do. How far down the journey are you of fully mastering doing it?
No, not even started, but not very far down. I'm hanging around with cool people now.
Out of 10, how far are you on that journey?
Out of 10, 3.
I'm gonna say a 4. Yeah, I was gonna say 3 or 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
if you're a 3,
life is good. Yeah, go on.
If you're a 3, who can you sell to?
2s and 1s. No, it's true, absolutely true. But there's a lot of those people. That's the thing. And because I've had this with like my trainers, like, well, do you want to serve people? You can serve people at the same level to you. You can serve people below you, or you can serve this like higher echelon of people. And he goes, that will come with time and experience, but you need to keep hanging around these people, be in these masterminds, be around people, but you need to add more value.
Won't come.
Okay.
Won't come.
Because
if someone right now is in the end of their first semester or second semester of university and they've not been a junior house officer and they try to tell you how to bring somebody down from an asthma attack just using your words, you're going to be like, makes sense. I've also read that in a book. I've also heard somebody else say it. And I've also seen a video of somebody else do it, but you've not. There's always, it feels like there's lots of people in the 1s and 2s because as you go up a triangle and below you always seems wider, but above you is higher.
Okay.
If you think there's a lot of people below you when you're a 3 and below you, you've got 2s and 1s, imagine how many people will be below you if you're a 7.
Absolutely. So what's your advice on that though, going up that thing?
Well, what do you think my point is when I'm saying this before I give you my advice?
The point is to not focus on positioning your product or your service you're offering to this and keep focusing on going up. That's what I'm getting from you.
I think you're at that crossroads that we were talking about at the very, very beginning of this podcast.
About passion.
The crossroad is, I am at 1, you've got no one to serve underneath you. When you're a 2 out of 10, you don't know if the people below you, you don't know if you're a 1 or if the people below you are 1s. At 3, you're enough of a distance from the first plate to notice there's at least 2 tiers below you. It's at that point that you start wanting to teach people. But if you want to go to elite greatness, you cannot drive your car looking at the rearview mirror because you'll crash. And you'll crash in public. And when you crash, you'll crash in front of the 1s, the 2s, the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s. Or you might fuck around and get lucky. And the irony of luck is that you might take your 3 out of 10 skill set and you might buy a meet and greet with Tony Robbins or Gary V. And when you talk to them and you talk to them like a 3, when they walk away, they're going to be like, that guy's a 3. And next time you meet them, even if you become a 7, you'll be remembered as a 3.
But isn't there a thing there, Raj, where you should fake it till you make it? Or is there a thing where you should always know?
Because you learn this in the streets as well. You're going to walk up to a tough guy and fake it. Tough guy's going to be like, I'm a tough guy, let's go.
To call you out.
You can only fake it to the 1s and 2s because they've not hit a 3. But you talk to a 4 to a 10 and they're looking at you like crazy. I think, and this is, we don't know each other that well. I'm just talking to you from a place of massive respect because I cannot discount all the things that you've achieved professionally, as a medical professional, academically, and all the investment you've made in yourself. But you need to just turn your head towards the front of the car and drive forward. Behind you, there'll always be more and more and more people. But don't sell out at 3 to 2s and 1s, because I tell you, at the top of every industry, it doesn't matter that you're in that industry. Why, when you go on Forbes.com, do you see Jay-Z, a crack dealer from Bed-Stuy? No, he's not from Bed-Stuy. He's from Marcy Projects.
He's from Marcy, yeah.
Sat next to Warren Buffett. Why did Jay-Z just sell his company to Jack Dorsey, a white guy, a white tech guy? Because the top of a triangle is so narrow when you hit 10 that all you can see is the tops of other triangles. There's not many people at the top of that triangle with you. Everybody's below you. The reason why you need to focus on going higher and higher and higher and less on building a quote unquote business model around being, giving advice or giving yourself the noun of being a coach is because when you get to the top of 10s, you'll meet every other 10 from every other world. When you become a 10 at what you do, you'll meet the 10 out of 10 golfer. When you become Tony Robbins, you end up at dinner with Tiger Woods.
Other 10s.
Or you end up at a lunch with other 1s and 2s. Don't fake it till you make it. Don't start teaching. Keep reaching. Trust me, it's a long fucking game. It's a long motherfucking game, but it's a good one.
When you say keep reaching, do you mean keep on trying to get to another level, keep on pushing yourself,
keep feeding yourself more knowledge? Go to dark, scary places. Go to the automotive industry. In 3 or 4 weeks' time, I'm sure car showrooms will open again.
Yeah.
Go to a bunch of car showrooms and say, hey, McKinsey, how many car showrooms do you have in Birmingham? Oh, you got 4? Okay. I'm a doctor. I do this, I do this, I do this. Could we have a quick conversation about, your opening plan? I think the way I look at life is different to the way you look at life. My fundamentals and my first principles are health, wellness, and I happen to do a bunch of this other stuff as well in and around mindset and coaching. I'd like to share it with you. And if the automotive industry or the pet industry or butcher, baker, candlestick maker, if they resonate with what you do, you go up a rung.
B2B.
Because you've got that rung on your belt, because you've dealt with that industry, and you can move on to another industry and then keep going until you've rinsed all of them.
All of them. Because then people will say, you know what? I mean, imagine this for an amazing story. Your name's Karan, right?
Yeah.
Hey, McKinsey, your sales are crazy. Like, this is incredible. And like, I really love the messaging on your posters around how you're treating test drives during COVID-19 and sanitizing your test drive cars. Yeah, you wouldn't believe this fucking doctor called Karan came in and he spoke to the GMs of all 4 of these branches. And he explained this, and this to us. And he did and Andy helped us set up our podcast. Andy helped us do this. Andy helped us do that. And in return, we taught him this and we paid him this. And that's how we did it. Richard Branson, when he was looking at Virgin Trains, he didn't go and get the national head of marketing for National Rail. He went and got somebody from the soda industry because they know how to build brands. Your job, my friend, is to cross-dress what you do in different industries. You need to basically become the Mrs. Doubtfire of your philosophy and change who you are and try it in different places on a horizontal perspective, and then come back to your home turf. And by the time you come home, you'll be up 2 rungs. Don't stop. I'm actually not telling you to not do what you're doing. I'm telling you not to stop. When you do what you're doing and you're selling to 2 to 1s, you're stopping. You're driving a Lamborghini using the rear view mirror. You need to drive it looking forward. When you get to the top of that industry, you hang out with other people at the tops of their industry, and you're looking around you and you're looking at other 10s, and 1 to 9 is looking up at you. And I'm not even saying I'm a 10. I'm just telling you how the fucking game works.
Raj, would you say that this is linked to why you're very into LinkedIn at the moment and why you think it's so powerful? Because it gives you access to all these people, especially now with lockdown, when shit's all closed down. You can't go and do a face-to-face meet with somebody that runs a bunch of places. Is this why you're all in on LinkedIn at the moment?
No, I'm not all in on LinkedIn. I don't put enough content on any of my platforms, but the reason
Not for
being
you,
is,
but when you advise other businesses, I know you've said to like recently with a lot of other businesses that the algorithms is more favorable on LinkedIn for like video content and to reach out to people, and it's obviously a good leveraging tool now compared to say Facebook. I remember talking to you a few years ago and Facebook was drying up. It wasn't anywhere near as good as it used to be.
I don't know if I still understand. Could you just rephrase that for me one more time? I'm sorry.
So basically, similar to what you just said to Karan there, which is looking at going to like a car dealership and meeting people one to one, and then leveraging the stuff that you know to build that up and take you up a rung, right? Similar to that, that's accessibility. The accessibility is you can go to someone, talk to them, and see if they'll give you that opportunity. Now, LinkedIn as a tool allows you to have the accessibility to thousands of people, right? But I've seen you put out content where you've said, where you've asked people, well, tell me your thoughts on LinkedIn. And a lot of people say, oh, it's just like a stomping ground for like loads of people to just keep on giving you jobs. Seems a bit clunky. It's not that great. But you've said to a lot of people, say in the business to business area, go on LinkedIn and go hard on LinkedIn because you have a lot of chances to progress it with the algorithms on there being more favorable compared to, say, Facebook. So would you say that the things you just said to Karan is quite similar to the strategy you have on LinkedIn?
In practical terms, I don't want Karan to get hyped off what I'm saying and be like, yeah, goddamn, he's right, and then not know what to do next. The thing to do next, Karan, is to, practically speaking, release every single thing that you know to be true. Nothing that you can't give away any custom information. When I speak, the fundamental law of nature is if I speak on the internet, I'm fundamentally giving away generic advice. Because I'm not saying, here's a video for Indy and putting it out to the public. It's generic first principle advice. If you keep doing that over and over and over and over and over again, the people that want to pay you, you won't be able to keep them out of your house. I don't worry at all, ever, ever, ever about finding my next client, ever. I just put out more content. And they come fucking knocking on your door. And if you don't let them in through your door, they try coming through your window. They try fucking climbing down your chimney. It's what I call breadcrumb fishing. Let me leave you with this. The thing that most people do is they go to a system, funnels, this, that, speaking, selling from stage, having a program, having a follow-on program. Entrepreneurship is as much art as it is a science, and you can't hedge all on the science of converting sales. You may be able to sell something, but that's different to making somebody want to buy. And you shouldn't get those two things confused. People will teach you how to sell your course. They won't teach you how to make people want to buy your course, like willingly. So let me talk about breadcrumb fishing for a while. Imagine you've got a lake in front of you. And the fish that's in that lake, sorry, vegans, the fish that's in that lake is salmon. Right? Right. We know that salmon is an expensive fish. So Karan, Indy, you go, you know what? We've got this goal to go and catch these salmon. All right, what do we need? Well, we've got our boat, a boat to boat. We need a certain type of rod, and we need a certain type of line, and we need a certain type of bait. Okay, let's get those things together. So the rod might be a podcast, the line might be LinkedIn, and the bait might be the heading. So you take that into the lake and you drop that rod, line, and bait where you think the salmon are. And guess what? Nothing happens. But you've got your system, but nothing happens. Here's what I've done. And this is why I've lit it up in Manchester, Toronto, London, Dubai, every city I've been in. I light that shit up. And I use this technique. And it's how I've gone from showing up and doing the Gherkin 3 years later, showing up and doing, Gary V stuff and doing all these other bits and projects. I do what's called breadcrumb fishing. I don't think about the bait. I don't think about the rod. I don't think about the line. I go to the store. I get a loaf of bread. I go into the middle of the lake. I roll up the bread in my hands so it breaks down, and I chuck it everywhere. Then I see which fish come to the surface. Where I thought there was salmon, there's mackerel. The salmon's actually over here, but guess what? I've seen some tuna over here, and tuna sells for more. Now let me go back and get my boat. Now that I know where the tuna is, I know what rod, line, and bait I need, and I know where the tuna are. Then you can drop your line in and start pulling out the tuna. When I came to Dubai, I started popping shit all over the place. Here's the value of Snapchat versus this. What's Periscope doing? What's Twitter doing? I'm just putting out content all the time. If you'd ever told me that I'd end up from making rap videos with Raekwon the Chef backstage in Los Angeles and Warren G to flying to Rwanda and Ethiopia and Madrid and shooting the CEO of Marriott and the prime ministers of those countries, I would be like, you're crazy. Breadcrumb fishing, constantly giving out value that the moment it hits the TV, the moment it hits the internet, it automatically becomes generic. And then people will present themselves. If you throw breadcrumbs everywhere, and by breadcrumbs, let's be fucking practical and not get over-attached this metaphor. I'm talking about long-form podcasts, micro clips from your podcasts, write-ups from your podcasts, taking a graphic quote of me and putting it out there so I can find it easy to share, taking the top three, Indy's favorite 3 questions that he asked on the Raj Kotecha interview, Karan's favorite 3 questions that he asked on the Raj Kotecha interview, stripping that content down, putting it everywhere. If somebody messages you and says, you know, I want to start my own podcast, and you end up charging them, you know, £700-800 to start their own podcast, and you realize that it's their mindset that's been stopping them, now you can help.
Damn, Raj, I think
that's some great advice, man.
That's great advice.
You know what I love about how we actually got there? It was like, it seems so organic where we got there. I don't know if you wanted to go there, but we just went there, and it was. What I am going to say is, my friend, after the podcast offline, I would love to jump on a one-on-one with you for a 1-hour session, just to get into some clarity and some stuff.
Let me know, Indy. Just give him my WhatsApp.
Of course I will. Yeah, I'll pass it on. No issue.
And yeah, we'll set it up in the coming week.
Just before you go, Raj, I've got some quick fire questions I just need you to answer.
Yeah.
They're pretty much fun and out there. Just give me the first question that comes to your mind, yeah?
First answer.
All right. Sorry, the first answer. What am I saying?
Let me just check my battery on my laptop. 1 second.
Go on.
Yeah.
We'll be done in like
yeah, probably going to be good for at least a minute or two because I'm on 7%. We're all good.
All right, safe. Better producer, Kanye West or Timbaland?
Kanye. No, shit. Timbaland did Aaliyah, though.
See, I knew it.
Brain not working.
Yeah. I mean,
you said Kanye, man. I have to take you first.
Next question.
Yeah.
Who's the most underrated artist in the industry?
Fonte from Little Brother.
Who's the most overrated artist in the industry?
I don't know. I don't know because the market's already validated that person. So who am I to say that they're overrated?
Fair play. Favorite hip hop artist?
Jay-Z.
Favorite hip hop group?
Bastard.
How do you not say Wu-Tang, bruv?
Yeah, no, I think. Yeah, I mean, of course, on balance, the Wu-Tang's incredible. I've been listening to them nonstop in last week. But my favorite hip hop group, and I'm going to regret not being able to pull up the right answer, but I would probably say, I mean, I love the Dog Pound, man. I love the Dog Pound. I don't know if Dog Pound is my favorite. Maybe Dog Pound. Maybe shit. Maybe I need to look at my Spotify. Yeah, I'd say favorite hip hop group. Shit.
You know it's meant to be quick fire questions, right?
Yeah, but these are because I know I'm on record. So I know I'm on record. So I want to answer
this shit up one day.
I want to answer the right. Yeah, no, I mean, fuck it. Let's just go with the I mean, Dog Pound, Wu-Tang. Yeah, Wu-Tang. I mean. After that Ray and Ghost verses, I kind of feel like Ray and Ghost should just be their own little group. So yeah, they're dope as fuck. Yeah.
So Dog Pound, yeah.
Yeah, Dog Pound.
All right.
Yeah, Dog Pound. Let's go with Dog Pound.
All right. Which Drake style do you like the most? And you know what I mean by this. He's got numerous different types and flows.
I like the Drake style from They Know.
Yes, early Drake. All right, cool. Where do you prefer, London or Manchester?
London.
What's your favorite podcast you listen to at the moment? I know you said you listened to nearly like 3 months worth.
The number one podcast, the number one podcast in the world is called Group Chat. You need to search for the names D Murthy, DEEMURTHY, Anand Murthy, and Drama. It is the best podcast in the world. It's not even close. My man Flo put me onto it about 2 years ago, and I've not missed an episode since. And out of those 3,700 minutes of podcast, it was mostly group chat. It's incredible. They cover politics, hip hop, culture, economics, cryptocurrency, media, everything.
It's check it out after
the best podcast in the world. I guarantee it.
Wow.
Is Clubhouse a flash in the pan or here to stay?
Clubhouse is opening the door for a new paradigm in social voice. So whether it ends up being Clubhouse or whether Clubhouse ends up being the tee up, which is what MySpace was for Facebook, I don't think the paradigm's a flash in the pan. Let's see how Clubhouse does. I think the basics of Clubhouse are really good. $1 billion valuation. Andreessen Horowitz not only investing but also producing content assets on there and really like super adopting the brand. I think overall it's got a good future.
Okay. What's the will you ever move back to the UK? I'm saying this from a purely selfish point of view because I want to meet up with you. It's been years.
It's possible. Not right now because I think Dubai has typically built its brand on the biggest, the tallest, the widest, the heaviest. But Dubai's brand went to a different level in 2020 by just having fundamentally good leadership. And it's been a wonderful city to be in the last few years, but especially the last 12 months. So no short-term plans to physically move myself back to the UK. But if we can get back to flying the way that we used to, it won't be uncommon to see me in and around London 3-4 times a year.
All right, cool. Hit me as soon as you do, yeah? Because I'll get going on it as well. And last question, what's the one piece of advice you wish you gave yourself starting out as an entrepreneur?
Just chill out, man. Chill out. Just
after the whole thing in it.
There's like just every hole isn't a goal, man. Just really think about
that. Right, that's the snippet for this episode, man.
Every hole isn't a goal.
Just chill out, man. Like you don't need to leave the house at 1:15 in the morning on a punt. Like chill. Just really go. And again, I would say the same advice I gave to Karan respectfully, which is like recognize that whilst being a 3 is exciting and you're off the ground floor on the second floor, now's not the time to start selling backwards. Now's the time to go deeper and study more. So I think, chill and focus and go narrow. And really, when you spot a trend, go, give it more time and let it breathe. But again, I'm from that generation where the paradigm shifted and you didn't know, we saw MySpace and Friends to come and go. We didn't know that Facebook wouldn't have the same fate and to buy shares in it, So I think just chill and just let certain moments breathe and don't be as excited. Don't chase every single bit of tinfoil that goes flying past your window.
Yeah. All right, cheers, Raj. I'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on, man. Have you got anything to plug or anything you want to plug after?
Nah, man. If anybody needs help, the best way to do it is go to @Raj Kotecha, RajKotcha on Instagram. Send me a voice note, and I mean one 1 minute voice note. I love Instagram voice notes
you can't do numerous.
It's got a 1 minute cap on it. Send me a 1 minute Instagram voice note and I'll help you. I do have time. I might be doing it from the back of an Uber or, whatever in between meetings, but I love the idea of helping people and building up my equity that way. And I'm proud of you both. Well done for doing this. Stick with it. And if there's anything I can do to help or assist in any meaningful way, then I certainly will. But, long may this effort that you're
I definitely will, man. I'm not stopping. Promise I won't. Thanks, guys. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and give us a shout with your thoughts on this video if you made it this far.